Hi, I am Alfonso Muchacho, and today I'm going to be looking at some of the absolute cheapest guitar effects pedals you can buy on the internet. And I'm going to be asking the question, can you use them as DJ effects pedals? But more to the point, should you? So I've bought a collection of very, very cheap and fun pedals. I've got a bit of a collection of cheap pedals anyway, because I use them in making music, so running synthesizers and running drum machines through them, getting unintended, strange, cheap effects from them. But I've also used a couple of them for effect sends on my mixer, and it sounded pretty good. So I've gone away and I've bought the absolute cheapest effects pedals I can find on Amazon and eBay, and I'm going to find out if they can compete or even be usable up against the built-in effects you get on a DJ mixer. So here is the absolute cheapest effects pedal I could find on the internet, and after carefully opening it, taking great care not to damage what's inside, yeah, there we go, I can reveal, ooh, shiny box. That's cool. Yes, it's a mini pedal. It's small in size, but hopefully it's big in sound. Knobs are a little small, but what do you expect? So this was, I believe, £17, brand new, I think from eBay. I think I got this one from eBay. A couple of the others came from Amazon, but this is a delay from eBay, £17. As you can see, we've got three parameters here: feedback, echo, which I think is like a dry wet control, and then time, delay, which is how long the delay goes for. Bypass button, we've got in and God knows what the USB, I'm not plugging that into my computer, no way. Yeah, standard delay pedal, nothing too exciting. Let's hope for the best. Okay, so here is my rogues gallery of cheap pedals. First one is a phaser. I can't remember where that came from. I think it was on Amazon for about £15. Yeah, not great. The Reverb Machine was actually a little bit more expensive. Behringer made this a while ago and discontinued it, but I bought it secondhand. I think I paid maybe £30 for it. It's the most expensive pedal here. Got lots of settings, got some delays, got some reverbs on it. Does actually sound pretty good. I'm quite happy with this one. Used it on a lot of synths. This one, just showed you, we'll see. That, I think, is a phaser or a flanger. I think it's a phase. No, it's a flanger. I don't know, whatever it is. This was $19.99 on Amazon. I bought that a couple of months ago. Used it on a few synths, but never used it as a DJ effect. Overdrive Distortion. Yep, as it says on the tin, overdrives, causes distortion. No idea. Vintage delay, I have actually used this one in DJ sets as an effect. It's very good, it's quite tweakable, it sounds quite natural, yeah, it works quite well. So there we have it, 6 very, very cheap guitar effects pedals. Let's plug them into my mixer and see what noises we can make. Just having a look at the manual for the cheapest delay in the world here. Thank you for spending time and money. Yeah, okay, I've done that. There's no mention of this USB connection. Thank you for spending time and money to buy this analog delay pedal. Warm delay effect. We tried our best to provide you. So feedback knob, echo knob, time knob, output. No mention whatsoever of the USB port, so I'm definitely not plugging that into my computer. So I will be running this little experiment on my Allen Heath Zone PX5. It's a 4-channel mixer, completely analog with digital effects. And the reason why I bought this mixer is because it combines the best of both worlds. So you've got all the analog EQs, an analog filter, but you've got those digital effects added on. And the digital effects on this are really, really very good. They are probably the best I've ever used on a mixer. I've never used the Zone D before. Apparently they're very similar. The best thing about them is, as you can see, it's not a bunch of exotic, weird effects that you're never going to use. There's like 3 or 4, 5 maybe different delays. There's a bunch of reverbs, a couple of distortions, but it's just stuff that you will use. It's not all the effects. You could see a scenario where you would use it. They're not just tacked on. They're all really well thought about. So what I'm going to be doing is using the effects end here at the top of the mixer. I will be sending the signal from the mixer through some pedals all the way back into the mixer. You can send it pre or post fader. I'll probably switch between the two just to give you a feeling of the different capabilities of the mixer and what it means to the sound. But yes, let's get something plugged in and let's see what happens. So the first combination I've gone for here, as you can see, I have gone for this weird little, I think it's a flanger, let's call it a flanger. It's a flanger or a phaser, I can't remember what it is. And I've gone for the vintage delay from Behringer as well. So going into the phaser, then into the delay, then back into the mixer. As you can hear there, the delay is a lot more usable than the phaser. The phaser is okay, but I just can't imagine a scenario where I would use it in anger. I just can't imagine a scenario where it would sound good in a mix. But the delay, what I like about the delay is it's slightly out of time. You're never quite quantized to the beat. It doesn't have a BPM sync, anything like that. So it's got this galloping feel, and when you speed it up and you slow it down, it has this weird warping effect, and I like it. I think it's very usable. So next up we have our cheapest delay in the universe, the one I bought from eBay, and I have the Behringer Reverb Machine. So the Reverb Machine has a bunch of different reverb presets on it, and it also has a couple of delays. So first things first, let's just run the signal completely through our world's cheapest delay, just so you can get a feel for how it sounds. As you can hear, again, the reverb is a lot more useful than the world's cheapest delay pedal. The delay pedal, it doesn't have a great range of timing on it. It seems to be very short. It doesn't have like a satisfactory long delay time on it. And it's got this very strange scratchy noise when you're changing between the timings. It's yeah, I don't think I'd use that as an effect when I'm DJing. I might use it on a synth or a drum beat, something like that in production. But to be honest, I don't know if I would risk using it in a DJ set. The reverb is a lot better. I have used that before whilst DJing. It can tend to sound a little bit in your face. It's either you don't get enough of it or you get too much of it, but I guess it's down to finding the right preset. The shimmer effect on it is actually rather good. Okay, so next up we have distortion, and then in running the distortion into the delay. Now, I have to be honest with you, I never really use distortion when I'm DJing. It just sounds too much like a mistake. If I hear other people using distortion, I can't tell whether it's intentional or whether they've just redlined everything and made everything distort. But do not fear, we're going to test it anyway, see what it sounds like. Another thing you'll appreciate about this distortion pedal is the wire keeps ejecting itself out of the right-hand side, which is quite annoying. I keep having to push the little back in. It's a bit tricky. You don't really get that with plugins. So that sounded more usable than I thought it would. I've used this pedal primarily on bass sounds. So coming straight out of a synth through the pedal and then into Ableton Live. I have never used it whilst DJing. My thinking here was I could get a distorted signal that I could then bounce around using the delay, and it kind of works. I don't know if I would risk using it whilst playing to an audience or anything like that, but it is quite fun to use. It's not as bad as I'd imagined. And seeing as I don't really use distortion at all in DJ sets, I was quite surprised the quality it gives the sound. And the good thing about this pedal is it's quite tweakable, and you can really change the character of the distortion, the overdrive. It's quite customizable, so you can get decent tones from it. So next up, we're chaining 3, aren't we? So we're going for the world's cheapest delay pedal again. I'm determined to make this work. I'm going to run that through the vintage delay, and then I'm going to use this strange orange phase pedal. I bought this to use on hi-hats, that kind of thing, to make them interesting, but I found that the slowest phase option wasn't really slow enough. It was always a bit too fast, and it sounded like a cheap effect. But let's go for cheap effects. Let's have some fun with this and see if we can get this delay pedal to actually sound decent. So shockingly and surprisingly, that actually sounds quite useful. I think a I think stacking the two delays sounds pretty good. So this is something that I do a lot when I'm producing, is I will get two different types of delay, run them in series and have them in with different timings and different parameters. And it kind of gives this random bubbling effect that doesn't really sound like a delay. It sounds more like just pure chaos. I really like running synths and melodies through that. So I think we've got a bit of that going on here. It doesn't really sound so much like a delay, more just like a chaotic, swirling, almost arpeggiated effect. And having the phase pedal afterwards, I was really surprised. Although it does sound a bit like a cheap riser, the swooshing sound it gives, it actually works really well in build-ups. It gives a bit of tension and definitely makes the listener focus that you're aware that something's coming. It's a build-up, something dramatic's going to happen. So I was very surprised. We've actually managed to get this delay pedal sounding pretty decent. You've just got to use 2 or 3 other pedals after it. Okay, so one great feature about this mixer, the PX5, is you can run your effects loops kind of in tandem. So you can run through the external send and return, and you can also run at the same time through the mixer's inbuilt effects. So I'm going to use the same chain here and combine that with a few of the inbuilt delays and reverbs on the mixer, see if we can get anything sounding good from this. So some of those combinations sounded good. I think you're going to need to experiment and practice a lot to find the right parameters that work with the right effects and on the right track, because there's a lot going on here. I think using the mixer's inbuilt reverb sounded good. So combining our analog pedal delays with the inbuilt digital reverb, that sounded like a good combination. You probably wouldn't want to use the mixer's inbuilt delays in conjunction with another set of delays. It's too much. But I guess the ability to customize so many different parameters means that you have incredible control over your sound, but you've also got to know what you're doing. And I don't think you can just have a go like I'm doing here. You can't just in a live setting think, oh, I'm just going to tweak a few knobs and see what comes out. Certainly not with the type of music I play, maybe with more experimental music, maybe with more percussive, driven techno, that kind of thing, you can do it. But with the kind of melodic music that I tend to play, you seem to need to know what the effects are going to do, and it's more about subtlety rather than chaining millions and millions of things together and creating whole new soundscapes. So, conclusions then. Can you use guitar pedals, very cheap guitar pedals, as DJ effects? Yes. Should you use cheap guitar pedals as DJ effects? Maybe. I think it comes down to a choice of effect and a little bit of planning. I would stay away from pedals such as distortion and probably phasers. They're a bit too subtle. And I would stick with delays, reverbs, and maybe a compressor pedal or maybe an EQ, depending on your setup. I think for me, the best chain would be a delay running into a reverb with probably a compressor sustainer pedal afterwards, just to keep the volume and the levels in check, because sometimes you can get a bit crazy, your levels get a bit hot and it distorts on the way back into the mixer. If I wasn't struggling to get around a video camera and film it, I would have probably done a lot more tweaking, and I think in a DJ set I would be tweaking multiple parameters at once to try and vary the effects and get some crazy builds going. But this camera was in the way, so it annoyed me, so I couldn't do that. But I think even accidentally, without any planning, just running a couple of cheap pedals in series came up with some very interesting effects. And I wouldn't necessarily say they are better than the inbuilt effects, certainly on the PX5, which are very good. But I would say that they're a lot more interesting, a lot more tweakable, a lot more customizable. And I can definitely see a situation where you could grab 3 or 4 different pedals and have them set up in such a way with some settings that you like, and you'd know which settings to keep. You'd know which ones work. And then you have your own customized effects chain, which goes far deeper and far beyond anything you could get with built-in effects. I like the out of time feeling of the delays. I think in techno that works very, very well. In more melodic music, you have to use it sparingly because it can sound a bit jumbled, but certainly percussion heavy, drum driven, rhythmic techno music, analog or non-synced delays are very, very good. They're very, very cool effect. With the cheapest delay pedal that I've ever used, it is all right. I'm going to try it on a few synths, see how it goes. I would have liked it to been a little bit more tweakable. The time knob doesn't really do a lot. It goes between very short and short. I would have liked it to have been a bit longer, but you get what you pay for. This was less than breakfast, so what do you expect? In conclusion then, yes, they're good fun, and they're collectible. They look good, and you get to get things in the post. It's good when the postman delivers you something, and you go, ooh, shiny. It's very nice. I'm going to keep buying some, and I'm going to find out a combination that works for me. As I said, I would recommend getting a good delay, maybe a couple of good delays, a reverb pedal, and that's all you really need. I think for synths, you can go a little bit crazier. You can get a bit more color from things like flangers, phasers, overdrive, distortion, that kind of thing. But for DJ effects, I'm quite conservative, right? I like delays and reverbs, so I think I'd stick with that.